a good coach is one question away from being fired. I mean,
yes.
You haven't hired me to validate everything you want to do.
Yes.
You hired me to transform.
Hey there, friend. You're listening to The Hot Mess Hotline, and this is Stephanie Crevens. You are totally in the right place if you're an ambitious leader who wants to pull off some big, stupendous, transformational project at work. We teach you how to lead with strategy, innovation, flexibility, and focus for new business results, digital transformation, integrating AI into your strategy, tough decisions, and so much more. Whatever you're working on, we've got hard-earned lessons from executives to make you more adaptable and put into practice when this episode is over. Today's guest is a faculty member here at the Change Architects with Stephanie Crevens and Company, Scott Couchenour. He draws from nearly 30 years of experience as a COO and a CEO, and he really focuses his coaching work on working with Gen X leaders who are successful yet dissatisfied with the uncertainty of where their life and their business is headed. He really concentrates on helping our owners and our leaders create clarity, design a comprehensive life and business plan, not only connecting the dots between business strategy, but how that feeds into life strategy too. I want you to dig into this powerful conversation with me and Scott, and you're going to hear really quickly how and why he helps our clients reach new heights and accomplish so much more as a coach than what our clients could ever do on their own. Let's go. Scott, we are so excited that you're here, part of our faculty and serving our clients with your special presence, your calming presence. I'm going to use that word. I just enjoy being with you so much and enjoy hearing about the impact that you make in this world. What are two of your favorite success stories from coaching that tie together people and change and coaching and the work that we do here?
Well, the first thing that pops into my head is a client named Nelson. Right. Okay. So I was coaching him, kind of a coach in residence. He was one of my first major clients after the major disruption in my life that led me to coach full time. Mm-hmm. And I'm in his office, and in fact, they gave me an office, and I'm walking down the hall, and I peek into his office, and he's feverishly working on this project. And I said, "Do you mind if I sit down and just observe?" He said, "No, come on in." And I watched him as he had a spreadsheet over on his computer on his right, and he had a stack of checks, and he had a deposit slip, and he's working on, he'll write something down on a piece of paper, and then he'll go over and put something in a spreadsheet, back and forth. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I have commercial real estate as a side business." He owns a construction company, and his commercial real estate business was something he also did, as many CEOs will do. They'll have multiple streams of income.
Yes.
I said, "Well, I said, Nelson, I know you're not a detailed person. I've shown you things, and then your eyes gloss over, and I know I can only get 41 minutes consistent time with you at any one time before you have to answer your phone. What are you doing?" He said, I'm working on my deposit slip."
Oh, God love him.
Yeah, God love him. Yeah, he's working on all his rental deposits. And
yes.
I said, "Well, long story short, I said, well, why don't we see if this is something you can delegate?" So we went through the step-by-step process, identified it, codified what he does. His major concern was, if I let go of this, I won't have control and see what's happening. I said, "Okay, well, let's build a feedback loop." Mm-hmm. So we bring in his assistant, the office manager, sat her down, talked with her about this whole process. She said, "Oh, my word, I would love to do this. This is the kind of thing that it's aligned with who I am. It's a task-oriented thing."
Yes.
So we said, okay, so we trained her. And she went through the first couple of months and did this. Now, early on in this process, to give context, I said, "Nelson, how much business do you do?" He said, "Well, it's about $8-9 million a year." Okay. Mm-hmm. What percentage of that $8 or $9 million do you directly influence? And we came up with that number. I don't know, it was 89%, because he had a salesperson and a couple of other people.
Yes.
I said, "How much do you work in a given year, in a week, times 52. And we got that number. I said, and how long does this typically take you to do this deposit? And he said, about 40 minutes a week. Okay. So we did the math. We made that one transition to someone who could do it better and quicker
Yep.
and loved it
Yep.
with a feedback loop. Nelson was able to save 40 minutes a week, which translated to over $100,000 every year.
Wow.
Perpetual, one single change, multiple years of savings. Now he has to make use of that 40 minutes, right?
Yes.
To influence. So it's what he does. He loves to interact with people, tell stories, network. And so he was able to do that. That's my number one favorite story.
Oh my gosh.
It involved change.
Yep.
Because he had to get comfortable with someone else doing something that he was comfortable doing or was used to doing.
Yep.
It involved bringing in someone else. So there's your people. And the whole coaching dynamic was calling out a blind spot.
Yes.
That's what I love. Now, another story, I was working with
Wait,
Mary.
can we pause on that one for just a second before we dig into this? I love this example because so many leaders that we work with have a need for control that they're unaware of. And we all have a need for autonomy and control. Oftentimes, senior leaders, part of the reason they've been successful is because they have maintained control on things to deliver to their expectations. And there becomes a point where that no longer serves you. But if you don't have self-awareness around your control needs and don't know how to design those feedback loops to what you did there, you don't know how to transition that to be the leader that you need to be in the business that you have now. Regardless if you're an employee or, the entrepreneurial founder, you have to adapt how you control and what you control to the position you're in, not what your personality defaults to. And I say that with I have a very high need for control as a human being. So I know for me, it's a constant wrestle, but we see that in our clients too. So I love that story. And then you translated it into $100,000.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I don't think leaders fully understand how much they cost to their company.
No.
So they'll go, oh, I'll go golfing. With so-and-so, who's a good friend, 3-4 hours, right?
Yep.
If you're $13, $14, $15, $1,600 an hour based on what you influence the upper end of what your business does.
Yep.
Multiply that and say, do I really want to go golfing? I mean, there's nothing wrong with golfing. Don't get me wrong.
Of course.
And you can use golfing for networking, of course.
Yep.
But when I would suggest any business owner do that exercise. How much do you work? How much volume do you bring in? And what percentage do you influence? And come up with that hourly figure. And I've done that with multiple clients, and it changes the focus on the use of time. It's just incredible.
Absolutely. And even if you're an employee, you need to look at your hourly rate, add another 30% for what your role costs the business. And then when you think about not only that rate and other expenses related to your role and what you impact in the business, you need to look at every hour to say, am I bringing that much impact to the business? If I say yes to this meeting that I have no freaking clue why I was invited to, will I be able to bring at least that much, if not times by 4? Because the reality is all of us needed to be delivering our value times by 4 every hour for a successful business.
Right.
Can you say yes to that? Then it needs to be a hell yes. And if not, it needs to be a hell no.
And where it becomes difficult is when the boss is having you join a meeting.
Oh,
and you have to confront that now, armed with those numbers, you can do it very unemotionally and be quietly confident and make your case.
Yes.
And that's our influence doesn't just happen at a no cost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's dig into that second awesome story you have.
I worked with a client. Her name is Mary. Mary was, let's just say she was paralyzed by what to do next.
Oof, that's a strong word.
Largely having to do with marketing. I hate it. I know I need to do it. Should I bring someone else to do it? on? Can I afford it? I mean, it's just all these thoughts running around. And the best way I can describe what we did together was, imagine a quarterback on a football field. Every play that he tries to call, the defense, it's like the defense is reading his mind. Can't get anywhere. Okay, so it's fourth down. He comes off to the side. And what do you see a quarterback do, a good quarterback in a good football program do when they're not on the field? A good quarterback isn't sitting on the bench with his hands in his head. He's sitting on the bench with a set of headphones on, and he's looking at a tablet, and he's communicating. Who's he communicating to? He's communicating to the offensive coordinator. Look at the difference in perspective. The quarterback is on the field, and all they can see is horizontally what's in front of them. Right now, a good quarterback will see the whole field, quote unquote. That's Tom Brady, and the upper levels. But for most
here in Indianapolis, we use the Peyton Manning example.
Sorry.
But yes,
my apologies.
We don't have listeners just from Indianapolis, but I had to bring that in. We don't speak the Tom Brady name around here.
Okay, well, it's other than that, most quarterbacks don't. They'll look at the offense, defense from a horizontal standpoint. Offensive coordinator, however, sees things from the top down. And the entire field and what all of the players are doing. And so what's going on in that communication is the quarterback is learning what the offensive coordinator can see that the quarterback cannot see. Again, blind spots.
Yes.
Right. And the intent is, here's the film of what you just did. Here's what's going on. Here's the weak side. Here's the strong side. Go out and play these plays, and let's try and see how that happens. So the next set of downs, the quarterback goes out stronger and with more information. Well, working with Mary was a very similar situation. It was simply bringing context in the coaching dynamic. And in the coaching dynamic, the conversation was, okay, well, let's step back and let's take a look at everything. Let's get everything on one piece of paper. What are all your options? What are all your concerns? What do you fear? Get all of that down. And as we did, every time she wrote something down, she was taking a step up to the booth.
Yes.
And it's based on a principle. And out of that, and the reason this is such a powerful story is that a principle began to develop, which I've used over and over and over again. It is that everything we face, positive, negative, and anywhere in between, has context. Everything we face, everything that you will face today has context.
Yes.
We forget that because we're in the details. But if you can step back far enough from the details, you begin to see options. Options then open the door for choice. And my definition is options, or my formula is options plus choice equals agency. When you hear anyone or you work with anyone who is paralyzed, they have no agency. It's a horrible way to live.
Amen.
When you feel like you're being controlled by circumstances and other people's decisions, you cannot live that way for very long. You have to, and the way to get out of that is to create context. Step back. You've probably said this yourself. Man, that felt good to get that off my chest. Right? Why does it feel good? Why does it feel good to unload to somebody? Well, it's because the dynamic of separating yourself from the details is so important.
Yes.
And what you're doing is you're gaining agency. And now that doesn't mean you're going to have a good choice, a choice among a bunch of bad choices. You choose one. Sometimes the choices that you create by developing this context they're two bad choices.
Yeah.
The power is not in, hey, I came up with a good option. The power is in, hey, I have a choice.
Yes.
And I'm going to go into this choice strategically. See, the thing when you're on the field and you're being controlled by the defense, you are making non-strategic decisions. You're reacting.
Yes.
And that's not fun. That you just don't feel like you're in control.
Yes.
But when you can step back, and when working with Mary, we began to notice a trend, a theme on this piece of paper with all this stuff. And now she's employed someone to do that work for her, and it's taking, her business is taking off, because similar to the Nelson story, she offloaded to someone who loves what they do. She hated it, and but the point is, she was paralyzed. She's not paralyzed now. She was
Yes.
non-strategic. She's now strategic. She was out of control, or being controlled, to controlling.
Yes.
And that is why I love what I do as a coach. I am an offensive coordinator for the quarterbacks in my life.
Yes.
I get up in the morning, and that's what fuels my energy.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. And, I just bring this up because I know other folks have heard this, controlling the controllables. We need that outside perspective. We need that person to bring us back into a strategic viewpoint perspective to say, what can I really control, to get our sense of agency back? Because it's like you just said, like, taking away our sense of autonomy and agency is it's not just demotivating, it's like very depressing, right? It physically and mentally paralyzes us. And that's why we need coaches in our life. I'm going to use that to transition into, we talk a lot with our clients about how we do coaching. How do you define, or how do you answer the question, what is coaching?
Well, it is creating context.
Nice.
Creating options that create choice, that gets you back to agency. See, the thing about lacking agency is as though you were on a highway and you just take your foot off the pedal. When you don't have agency, your foot's not on the gas pedal.
Yes.
Worse, your foot is on the brake. The problem is all the other cars are going at 70 miles an hour, 75, 80. When you take your foot off the gas pedal, you're no longer gaining momentum. In fact, you're creating a bigger challenge in the grand scheme. If you're a leader, a leader that has no agency is affecting their employees, their clients, their vendors.
Yeah.
An employee who has no agency is affecting the team they lead, their leaders.
Yep.
We don't live in a vacuum. So my definition of coaching is more of an image. It's the quarterback with the headphones on and the tablet talking to the person in the booth. That's what a coaching session is.
Yeah.
When the coaching session is over, the client goes back out on the field and adjusts what they did, calls audibles, comes back and learns. It may be even they may come off to the side because they scored a touchdown. It's not always negative. It's not always fourth down again. It's, hey, we just scored. Quarterback is on the sideline, headphones, tablet, talking to the offensive coordinator. What went right? And what can we leverage about what went right to continue that? So my definition of coaching is the quarterback and the offensive coordinator. That's what coaching is.
I love that. We specifically apply the coaching methodology and the power of that to change management issues inside of companies, large and small. What's one thing you see organizations getting wrong about change?
Communication. Communication. I read something just this morning on LinkedIn, and the phrase went something like this: it's not that people don't like change. It's that people don't like sudden change. I've never looked at it that way. It's true. People don't like to be. So imagine, as a leader, you've come back from Vistage, right? You've come back from some conference or seminar, and you gather everybody together and say, guys and gals, we're doing this thing now. We're going to start doing this.
Yep.
The problem with that, and I call it flavor of the month, because they just did that 3 months ago with another seminar or Vistage, and the people are going, what do we do? I mean, the worst thing a leader can do is have his people say, yeah, I heard that before. We're not going to take any action because 3 months from now, he's going to come up with something else.
Yes.
Or she's going to come up with something else.
Yep.
And so communication is, if you're going to raise the stakes in your organization, and it's going to cause your people to have to work differently or harder, then you want to get ahead of the story, and you want to land or take off the plane. That any plane that you're going to take off requires a runway. You can't just boom, you're up in the air. You create whiplash. And so communication, I think, is where a lot of leaders go wrong. The story that led me to coaching, just prior to becoming a full-time coach, I was a CEO. Prior to that, I was COO. I'll probably get into this later, but as a CEO, we were on a 5-year slide, a challenge, and we went from 70 employees to 12. I had to let 2 of my brothers go. It was a family business. Went from 45 million to, I think we're at 6 million. So the 12 survivors, I knew that they were wondering, when am I next?
Mm-hmm.
What's happening here? So I instituted a weekly gathering, virtual plus local. We talked every week. I allowed them to ask any questions they could possibly ask, because I knew that information is what was necessary in a challenging situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of leaders, they take the opposite approach and say, I'm not going to share anything until I have this thing figured out. And that's one of the worst things you can do, because you leave people questioning.
Yeah.
And you're much better off opening communication.
Yes. Yeah. Agree completely. And just going back to the sudden communication piece, because we deal with this a lot, is I think leaders forget the feeling that their employee gets of the loss of agency and autonomy that
Right.
creates. And that's really what they get the emotional backlash to.
Yes.
In the moment. It's not the idea itself. The idea itself could be great. It could be the worst thing ever. That's not the point. The point is you have ripped away a sense of agency and autonomy from your employees. And that is one of the top needs that employees deserve as human beings to have in the workplace. And it feels actually in the moment very violating, like from a neuroscience perspective, from an emotional perspective. And so if we can mitigate and lessen the chances of that happening, we can do a lot of great good and make it more likely that what you do communicate lands with your employees.
I have bristled at the thought that what we're talking about is a soft skill.
Oh, that is the worst word to use.
Yeah,
for that.
Right. It's like they are leftovers.
Yes.
You get all the hard skills going, and then if you have time, and you can do the whole HR thing.
Yeah.
Communicate and make your people feel empowered. It's all soft skills.
Yes. If you choose to, you can work with other human beings.
Yeah.
Then not a choice anymore.
Flip it on its head. I mean, you can always train technical. You can't train the kinds of things like communication and self-awareness and all that. That's not easily trained. Yeah, it's not a soft skill. It is the critical skill that creates the context for technical skill.
Yes, absolutely.
But I
cannot agree more. Yeah. We love a good shiny object around here. Always good.
Sure. Yeah.
Good digression.
Yeah.
All right.
Especially when you have to do something you don't want to do. Shiny objects become much more shiny.
Ooh, true that. Very appealing to get out of the most important and urgent work in the moment. Agreed. Yep. Scott, tell us about your coaching style. What will our clients get when they're coached by you?
I took a survey, an assessment, and it was called the Fascinate Advantage. If you're familiar with that, it's a personality.
Taken that one. Okay. Yes, it's a good one.
Right. And it doesn't tell you how you see the world, which a lot of the psychological based assessments will do. This tells you how you come across to people, how they see you. Mm-hmm. There were 2 words that defined me. My top 2 were trust and mystique. Oh. So trust was the ability to engage very quickly with someone and have them feel comfortable that they can share anything with me. Mm-hmm. That was validated. I sensed that for years. And the second was mystique, which was at first I thought, what is that all about? Well, it's the ability to think deeply and to think broadly. Again, context, which is why I love the context. So to answer your question, I think my style is very friendly and firm.
Mm.
I was just talking to a prospect this morning, and she was asking me, similar question. What's it look like to work with you?
Mhm.
I said, well, what I do is largely based on relationship and trust.
Mhm.
Right? So I am their friend when it comes to that perspective. But as a client and a coach, I am not their friend. And let
Yes.
me explain what I mean.
Mhm.
When I see a client playing small or procrastinating or putting off what I know they need to do, then I move into the realm of a good coach is one question away from being fired. And that's what I do. I mean,
Yes.
you haven't hired me to validate everything you want to do. You
Yes.
hired me to transform. You
Yes.
hired me to be different as a result of working with me than you are right now.
Yes.
That requires some real candid. Now I'll do it friendly, friendly and firm.
Mhm.
That's my
Yeah.
style.
Yes.
I like, and I keep working at this. I like to punch someone in the gut and have them say and smile and say, thank you.
Yes.
To me, that's success.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed. In a loving way. In a loving way, of course.
That's right.
But yes.
It's the truth in love.
Yeah. Yep.
Truth, which hurts,
Yep.
but in the context of relationship and trust.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why coaching is an investment. Some folks want to look at the just the financial investment. It's an emotional investment in yourself, in your willingness to be accountable to yourself, and your willingness to grow and develop. And it's not for the faint of heart, especially when you work with us, the Change Architects by Stephanie Crevens and Company, because all of our coaches have that assertive, firm, loving, compassionate style, and it looks differently based on the personality.
Mhm.
Because we're here to change the world. Our clients are here to change the world. Transformation takes investment and hard work.
It does. And I would encourage your listeners to look up the phrase emotional cycle of change.
Mm.
You go from uninformed optimism when you're thinking about coaching,
Yes.
hey, this
Yeah.
is going to be great.
Yep.
When I reach this end game, but then they start looking at the requirements, the sacrifice, the work,
Yep.
and they slip into informed pessimism. All right. Oh, okay. It's going to take this, that, and the other. Okay.
Mhm.
So let's get started. The good news is it gets worse. Right. The third stage in the emotional cycle is called the valley of despair.
Yes.
Because you started taking these changes, you started doing this work. I mean, you're not seeing the results yet. And it's the third stage, that valley of despair, where most people give up and they'll go back. And so that's the story of New Year's resolutions that die in the first week of February.
Yep.
Is because they've reached the valley of despair. They did what they thought they needed to do to see the change, but they haven't seen the change yet.
Yes.
Coaching with a trust, with a truth and love component keeps that valley from going so deep, but it also gets you out of the valley of despair quicker into what is called informed optimism.
Yes.
Hey, this is working. I'm beginning to see the payoff, because persistence makes us luckier.
Yes.
And if we see those results, then we move to the final stage, and that's successful fulfillment. So yes, transformation is not for the faint of heart. And I think it's good for clients to understand that dynamic. Every transformational journey includes a valley of despair. It's not, will I hit the valley of despair? The question is, when I hit the valley of despair, who do I have on my side?
Yes.
And that's what I love about coaching.
Oh, yes. Wonderfully said. Beautifully said. Agree completely. And I haven't heard it put in that context, but the grief cycle is the same as what that's described, applied in a slightly different perspective. And then with teams and groups, we use the change curve, which is the exact same cycle.
Right.
And as team coaches, group coaches, and individual executive coaches, we we make the valley of despair a little shallower and we help you stay in there a little less long, which makes everything not quite as painful, not quite as expensive emotionally, financially, fill in the adverb there. That's the power of coaching right there.
That's right. That's right. I use the three words: further, faster, deeper.
Yes.
You can go further, faster with deeper understanding. There are two books that are related to this. Seth Godin wrote the book, The Dip. Talks about this. And I'm currently listening to a book. The title is The Choice Point. And the image is someone jumping from one cliff to the next. And in any transformational journey, there's a choice point, a point at which you decide, is this really worth going after? That's the valley of despair. So it's been documented. Every journey that is worth it has a dip. Has that, whatever you call it.
The dip, and there is a point where you have to choose to leap, not to mix metaphors here, but you have to choose to sacrifice something in order to get the transformation you're seeking. There's always a sacrifice, and it could be your ego. It could be many, many different things. It's not just, I think we think of typical things like financially related. There's something you have to be willing to give up to get the new way of being.
Yeah. I think coaching is a lot of talking people off the cliff and talking people off the cliff. What I mean? Right? Don't worry. Come back. Don't destroy yourself. On the other hand, you just need a push. Just go.
Just go. Yes. For those listening in, what do you think is important for them to consider when choosing a coach in general?
If you're thinking about a coach, first of all, good for you. Someone said once, no one needs a coach, but everyone can benefit from a coach. Think about that for a minute. I struggle with that, but the idea is when we think about coaching or bringing a coach into our life, coaching is close to therapy. It's typically seen as, counseling, therapy, coaching, all the helping professions. So the natural thing that a lot of people think of is, if I hire a coach, I'm admitting that I need help. And in a negative sense, I need fixed. Now, coaching is different than counseling and all that. Counseling is working on a pathological, what happened and can we fix what's wrong. Coaching is more forward looking, and how can we get to that transformation and move forward. What I'm talking about is more of a mindset when it comes to hiring a coach. People might say, I don't want to have to hire a coach. I admit failure. I admit I need help. Here's how I counter that. As a business owner, why did you hire a CPA? Why did you hire an attorney? Why did you even hire your CFO? Those were strategic decisions to bring a second set of eyes onto the thing that you're trying to accomplish. That's what coaching is. It's a strategic decision to bring in someone who will speak into what you're trying to do, and it's good for you. You're the one that made that decision. You're not admitting failure and all that. No, you're strategically saying, in order to get from point A to point D, I am going to need to have some outside help. I mean, God love you. If you're a business owner and you're doing your own books on QuickBooks, or you're doing your own deposit slips. That good for you if you want to do that. But why not bring in strategically someone who could do that for you? Look at the benefits. And so that's as a backdrop. Now, what I think is important for people to consider when they're choosing a coach, it's an alliteration of three words that all start with C. Is there a connection? Because if there's not a connection, then you're going to be like dragging a heavy ball and chain through the whole coaching process. How do you know if you've connected? Well, if in conversation with that coach or that potential coach, you find yourself opening up to ideas and bantering back and forth. And there's just this, it's like I felt like I've known you all my life kind of thing. Then you've made a good connection. You
Yes.
and I are like that.
Yes. Absolutely.
And I've got certain clients that are more of that than others, where it's just, man, I hear myself spouting out ideas, and it's like, where'd that come from? It's that connection.
Yep.
The second is confidence. How confident is the coach in what they can do for you? How sure are they in the coaching dynamic? That's very important. And the third is competence. How competent are they? And when I talk about competence, I talk about what is the story, the backstory of that person who is now a coach, and what's the spark that caused them to do what they do today. That makes them competent, because we all have stories. If you have a connection and this potential coach is very confident in what they can do, but if you understand their story, you realize they're doing this just because they want to turn a buck. They want to make money. They want to become the next guy or girl on a beach with the Ferrari and all that sort of stuff. And I'm just a cog in their process. That's not competence.
Yeah.
Competence has to do with what is their why. Why does that coach people? What is the essence that drives them that they can't not do coaching?
Yes.
And if you've got a connection established, and you can rely on the confidence of that coach, and the competence comes from a deep why, I think you've got a good potential coach.
Agreed. And I'll add a layer of competence that is super important here is we believe in the competencies from the International Coach Federation, because coaching is unregulated. Lots of folks call themselves coaches, and there's a lot of confusion when it comes to choosing a coach because of that.
Yeah.
And I would argue probably the same is true with a consultant, right? Everyone can call themselves a consultant pretty easily, and there's two governing bodies that set competency for coaching. And I think that's really important. And so we follow the International Coach Federation's competencies. And so all of our coaches, so Scott and his peers here as faculties, and same with me, we have to have gone through a coaching program that's makes us eligible for the ICF. I don't demand membership in the ICF. I certainly hold that membership for our organization. But why that's important is because that tells me that training program has been designed to meet the competencies of the ICF. There's at least 60 hours of training. Most of our coaches are beyond 100 hours of training before they come to us, and at least 2 decades of career experience before they're on the team. To your exact point, to that competence, right? Like, we can define competence in many ways, and that's how we define it, because there's a backbone of credibility through the ICF that I think is really important, besides me saying, oh, trust me, Nelson, we got great coaches here. Don't worry about it.
That's true. And I'm glad you added that, because I just assumed that. But the bar to enter the coaching arena is very low.
Yes.
And I would argue that post-pandemic, when people lost their jobs or had to learn how to do something on Zoom. Now, when I started coaching, the big hurdle that I had to overcome was people didn't know what coaching was. So I had to first educate. Now it's become such a common theme that you just label yourself coach, and all of a sudden you're talking with people. And you're right, that training has to be there. It just simply has to be, because you have to hold yourself accountable to somebody. And I'm grateful for the ICF. It's international. It's where I get a lot of my competencies, the confidentiality, and the just the professionalism element. Now, I don't use my certification as a coach to get clients.
Right.
I don't lead with it.
Right.
Because a lot of people just don't care that there's a certification, but I have it in case it's necessary. Right.
I think it's an ingredient of integrity in this case. Personally, that's how I would build that in.
Well, as coaches, we have to always be looking at ourselves. We talked about blind spots. We all have them.
Yes.
In an institute like that, or a coach with a coach, or in my case, a coach with multiple coaches.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
help me see what I'm not seeing is critical, because we have to always be constantly getting better as coaches.
Agreed. Or otherwise we create the plateau for our clients because we don't have a new perspective.
Right.
It's almost like to your OC metaphor, like the offensive coach, instead of being up in the box that's, at the top of the stadium, they're just sitting in row 2 down in the seats.
Mm-hmm.
And so by default, we're creating limits on how much transformation we can drive for our clients.
Ouch.
So,
yeah. Right.
Yeah. And same here. Like I'm in coaching every other week. I'm always trying new, like, quote unquote, self-help methodologies as a way to say, okay, how could this be helpful for a client in a certain situation? Because there are, coaching is one thing, therapy is another. We need different, I'm going to use the word interventions. That's a little heavy here, at different points in our life, or to help us also get past the leap, get past the jumping point that we have to make as part of the transformation. Coaching is a powerful one. Sometimes our clients need different things. So I like to be the self-help guinea pig as well for our clients to make recommendations.
That's right. I have, if you looked at my Audible library, it's just completely full. And I like to listen, unless it's a British accent, I can't do this, but I will listen to a book at 1.5 to 1.7.
Same.
And then if it's really good, I'll go back and listen to it again. And for instance, I listened to a chapter while I was mowing my lawn. I'm riding lawnmower, and I had my AirPods in, and I listened to that same chapter probably 5 times.
Wow.
And the last time was 1.0 because I wanted to get it really into my mind. So yeah, when you're a successful coach, when you're listening to something or reading something and you say, Mary could use this.
Yes.
Or Jim, this is perfect for Jim.
Yes.
Reels, Instagram Reels. I love to flip through those, and I have a number of categories that I save certain things into. And I just sent one to a client yesterday. I said, look at this and tell me what you think.
Well, and it's a great role model for our clients too, because if we want new results in any area of our life or work, you have to get new information so that you can take new action, so that you can have a new mindset. That's just how the human brain works. There's no other way. Life
is iterative.
Yeah. Yes.
Don't fall into the trap of thinking life is linear. Life is iterative, and we have to learn to adapt and adjust.
Yeah.
Call audibles.
Yes. And call audibles. Yes, absolutely. All right. 2 last questions, and I'll let you get back to changing your part of the world today. What types of leaders and teams do you think you're a best fit for?
I think the leader who is facing a significant challenge that has really created a dent in their agency. And I say that because I've been there. If your listeners are familiar with the hero's journey, or Iron Man, like I always picture Iron Man in the cave, and he starts looking around at little pieces and parts, and we all know what Iron Man turned into. I've been through that cave. I've been in that cave. The ingredients of being a COO, a CEO, and a coach, and how all those ingredients began to culminate into something I could package and use. I believe that my best client is a leader who is experiencing some significant life disruption, whether it's internally driven, they just a growing sense that they've got to do something different, or externally imposed, like what happened to me.
Yes. You have had the dark night of the soul that has allowed you to come out with a transformative light that is part of your service to the world.
And you can talk about that. You can talk about a hero's journey, and I get the Iron Man and all that.
Sure.
But if you haven't been through it, you just can't understand it. It's like we went skydiving one Father's Day, 3 fathers and 3 sons. And
nice.
It was great. It was a static line. That's a whole nother story for another podcast. But on the side of the plane was a quote that said, "To those who have jumped, no explanation is necessary. To those who have not jumped, no explanation is possible." If you
Yes.
haven't been through the cave, you cannot understand it.
Yes.
And I don't know why I'm getting emotional. It's just that experience was transformative for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. When someone is wrestling with a major disruption of some sort, there are principles that you can hang on to. There is a cable out of the cave. And I got to tell you, Stephanie, every conversation I have with clients and prospects is a little bit of redemption. Every conversation is a piece of redemption of that loss that I experienced. And man, that breathes life into life for me.
Yes.
I didn't mean to get emotional. That was
That's the good stuff. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Thanks for being willing to be vulnerable to let that out in front of
I couldn't
me.
help it. I couldn't.
Yeah, I know.
It's a soft skill. I should not let that happen.
Oh, Lord, no. Yeah. But you and I both know, and folks who've listened in, I've been fairly open about it. I went through something very traumatic in 2018 that basically ripped my heart out, chewed it up, and I had to find a way to put it back in. And happy to share the details. I just don't any longer because it makes other people cry and kind of like it's a thing. We know that when you've been in the cave, you don't have to go in there by yourself. And we know how to accompany people with true compassion, which is deeper than empathy, because most people in our lives don't know how to display the empathy that someone going through something really tough like that needs and deserves. And for those of us who have already been in there, we can go in there with you, not as a tour guide, but as a way to say, this is going to be scary and it's going to suck. And we'll be here with you because we know it's coming.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing what you can face when you know it's not lasting forever. And if you have a companion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. This is the good stuff, man. This is the good stuff. All right. Last question for you. What is your top go-to powerful question for your clients?
Well, if you're watching, this is a quote I have in front of me. I don't know if I can see that, but I keep that with me all the time. If you were coaching yourself, what would you say to you right now? I think that's a very powerful question because it gets people out of their own skin. Mm-hmm. And it gets them to thinking third person, which is helpful.
Yep.
And to say, all right, let's just pretend like you were your own coach. What would you say to you right now? And it transforms people from the details of the field that they're playing on.
Yep.
To it kind of says, come up to the booth and see what's happening.
Yes.
Now that you see what's happening, what would you say to yourself?
Yes.
Because largely our clients intuitively know what the right decision is. And coaching is a matter of questions to draw out the answer that they will have.
Yes.
And when they come up with the answer, it's much more empowering and transformative than if I were to say, here's what you need to do.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Coaching is a co-creative kind of thing. I think two people sitting around a kitchen table, laying everything out on the table and co-creating and working together is powerful. I guess this is where coaching stops and consulting starts. Consulting is, okay, I've heard your situation. Here are 3 things I want you to do.
Yes.
And they're my things that I want you to do, right? Pure coaching is having looked at all the stuff that we were looking at. What are your options?
Yep.
What do you think is best at this point? Now I can give some insight to what you say. I can say you're playing small, or I can say, wow, that's good. That's good stuff.
hmm
The point is they came up with it. So if
Yes.
my question my go-to question is, if you were coaching yourself, what would you say to you right now?
Yes. Which circles us back to getting back to a place of agency,
Yes.
which is what we all deserve and need to be successful in the way that we want to be successful.
Right. Agency is the precursor to progress. You
Yes.
cannot make progress with a lack of agency. So let's get agency first. Then you can start the transformation.
Yes. Oof. Well, Scott, thank you so much for this amazing conversation. I have no doubt it's going to be the highlight of my day and my week. And you brought so much joy to my day already. So thank
Same
you
here,
so
Stephanie.
much. Yeah.
Same here. I'm honored, and I thank you for the time.
Hey there, friend. Do you see why I had to have Scott on our team? He is trusting, trustworthy, yet challenging and assertive, which is such a beautiful blend of gifts that he brings to our coaching faculty. I want to share with you my top takeaway from the conversation and would love to hear yours wherever you're watching and listening in. But, coaching is having that resource, hopefully us here at Stephanie Crevens and Company, where we create context, we help you create choice, and we bring you back into the options that you have so that you can create that sense of agency and autonomy again in your life. That is what we want for you in your life and in your business. All right, now let's get back to the most impactful work that we have to do today. And if you would share this with another person, maybe struggling with some of the things that Scott helps with or that we help with around leading digital transformation, I would be oh so grateful. And I'll see you soon, my friend.